Today, what am I going to teach you about teaching? I'm going to teach you 3 of my favorite top teaching tips: icebreakers, pulse checks, and effective questioning. So, first of all, that's me. I'm Jamie. I am the product manager for MLH Localhost. So this picture up here, this is the best bathroom selfie I've ever taken. That's it. I'm done. I'm going to retire. This is like I have to retire my jersey because I'm never going to look like that again. So, we've already covered if you have attended a localhost workshop. Actually, I didn't ask specifically. How many of you have attended or organized a localhost workshop? Awesome. Has anybody at this point in the weekend not heard of localhost? Cool. All right. Amazing. Great. So, you might be wondering why I have any authority or expertise on learning. I'm so glad that you asked. I started teaching preschool with a program called Jumpstart while I was in college. After that, I joined Teach for America, and I taught algebra and geometry for 3 years. During that time, I completed a fellowship with the Flatiron School for secondary STEM teachers who wanted to learn how to teach computer science. And that summer, I taught at one of the Flatiron School's extension camps in Miami. So I taught a cool class on front-end development and then some Ruby back-end stuff. The following year, the Flatiron School didn't have those satellite camps anymore, so I went to WinCode, which is a web development boot camp in Miami. Do we have any Miami in the house? No Mango or Shell hacks in this room? I'm a little disappointed, I gotta say. All right, so I partnered with WinCode to design and teach my own high school summer web development boot camp. And at the end of that summer, that was 2016, I joined the curriculum team at Codecademy, where I built out a lot of the new front-end curriculum, the new HTML, CSS, JavaScript stuff. And then in the summer of 2017, actually the week before Hackcon, Swift reached out to me, and we talked about what it would look like for me to join MLH and help build out localhost, so that's what I have been doing ever since. So, what I'm saying is, I have a decade of teaching experience, and I'm super excited to share that all with you today. So, let's start with an icebreaker. Turn to somebody around you, tell them your name, tell them what organization you're representing, and the coolest thing you've learned this year. All right, cool. Sounds like we're quieting down a little bit. I am going to go ahead and demonstrate the icebreaker. I'm Jamie. I represent MLH. And the coolest thing that I have learned this year is I've started learning Solidity so I can write smart contracts. And if you want to learn, Localhost can teach you. So raise your hand if you were born in the first week of April. Raise your hand if you were born in the last week of November. What's the coolest thing you learned this year? That's very cool. What's your name? And what organization do you represent? Cool. Snaps for Derek? Awesome. Amazing. Great. So, great. Now that we all know each other, let's dive into the workshop. I mentioned that I'm the product manager for MLH Localhost, and I was going to tell you all a little bit about it, but you're familiar with it, so let me just tell you the cool parts. Localhost is a hacker education tool. The simplest way to think of Localhost is a workshop in a box. We send you everything that you need to put on a kick-ass technical workshop, even if you have no experience in the topic. It's also a hacker engagement tool. A lot of people think that the idea behind Localhost is just putting on workshops, which is an important endeavor unto itself, but what is really exciting to us about Localhost is that you can use it to build your community. You can host Localhost workshops leading up to your hackathon to get people interested. You can host Localhost workshops as part of student orientation to get people to join your club. It's not just about learning, it's about community, and I really encourage you to think of it that way. So, no matter whether you use our content or your own, we want to make sure that you deliver it as effectively as possible. So for that reason, I'm going to share 3 of my favorite tips from my time in the classroom with you. The first one is icebreakers. So, it's important to use good icebreakers. Why? Icebreakers are important because you want the people in your workshop to feel comfortable talking to each other, asking and offering help, and making mistakes. Although it seems like a really straightforward concept, choosing the right icebreaker is important because you don't want to choose something too personal or something controversial, something too long, too short, or uninteresting. Notice that I opened the workshop with an icebreaker. Would anyone like to share any observations about the icebreaker or how I conducted it? And I was a teacher, so I will not hesitate to cold call. Yes, what's your name? Nemo. What observation would you like to share? Very cool, so you got to meet someone in your area, that's important. Any other observations? Yes, tell me your name. That's in Evanston, right? Yes. I went to Northwestern. I miss Evanston a lot. So we should, I'm so glad. We should definitely grab me after this. We should talk. What was your observation?
Well, I thought it was very tricky and clever how you got someone to volunteer without knowing they were volunteering by asking for
Oh, thank you.
tricky and crafty.
That was a bonus teacher trick that I threw in there. You can only use it once in a workshop, though. People will catch on. But I'm glad that you like that. Thank you. What else you got for me? Yes, what's your name?
Ibrahim from Vandy Hacks. I noticed the questions that you proposed were super simple and easy to answer, and that they started a conversation with other people.
Oh, yes, that's the trick. Okay, so the questions that I posed were super simple, easy to answer, and started a conversation. That's the trick. You nailed it. Good icebreakers are opportunities for introduction. Participants should introduce themselves and say why they're here. They are at most 30 seconds per person. If 20 people attend your 2-hour workshop and everybody takes 1 minute, that's going to take up 1/6 of your time. Try to keep your introductions short. And finally, they are relevant but not overly personal. For example, asking participants their favorite ice cream flavor is lighthearted, but does it get the conversation moving? Ask them about the first thing they ever coded. This is not too personal. You're not asking, for example, their worst childhood memory, but it's relevant and shares some interesting information about the person at hand. So, examples of good icebreakers include, what's the first thing that you ever coded? Or construct something. Give participants 3 minutes to make a tower out of popsicle sticks in a group and compare at the end. Activities that can be done in a short amount of time and in groups are fun. You don't want them to be too long and you don't want them to be too involved, but something quick like this one, this will break the ice and it'll be a lot of fun. So we know what to do. Let's cover what not to do. Less good icebreakers include questions like, what's the scariest thing to ever happen to you? Anybody have an idea why this might not be a good idea? Yes, what's your name? Ben from Vandy Hacks. Why? That's exactly it. You might have people sharing something too personal. People have to think about it for too long. You might have somebody share something that's really uncomfortable for somebody else, or you're asking people to think of the worst thing that ever happened to them. It's not great. Can anyone give me an example of another question that might be bad? Elise. Exactly. Other things include like yes or no questions. Those are fun, like to get everybody like, woo, like raise your hand if you're having a good time. Like that works, but it doesn't work for actually getting people to talk to each other. You also want to avoid controversial questions like, who's the worst professor at this school? It might bond people, but it doesn't really set the right tone for your workshop. And also activities like trust falls. Please don't do this, and certainly don't ever do it at a localhost workshop. Please keep your participants safe. Okay, so we're gonna take 5 minutes to do an activity. You're going to work with the people around you. You're gonna brainstorm 5 icebreakers as a group, select someone to write down your icebreakers, and after 5 minutes, we're gonna report back your favorite one to share. Does anyone have any questions about the activity? Does anyone not have a worksheet? All right. Oh, I actually cut it down to 3 minutes because we lost some time. So you have 3 minutes. All right, wrapping that up. Let's share. We are gonna start with Elise's group. Elise, would someone from your group share your favorite icebreaker? What's your name? Sarah. What is your favorite icebreaker? I like that. Builds on prior knowledge. Very cool. Who from this group in front is going to share? What's your name? Oh, very exciting. What's your favorite icebreaker? Was this an engineering group? Yeah, seriously. Tennis ball and I gotta try that one. All right, well, yeah, that's a good one. You showed me up there. All right. This group over here, Nemo. And why? Why did I add the and why? Oh, okay, so did everybody hear it? If you had a time machine and you could go to the future or the past, which would you choose? And Nemo said that, and then I went, and why? Why did I add the and why? Yeah. Exactly. You don't want binary questions. You want to dig in a little bit. Love it. Love the, I've never heard that one before. That's a good one. I'm learning from you all today. This is very exciting. Cool. This group over here, who do we got? Whew, did you all hear that? If you had no technical limitations, what would you make? Love that one. Write that one down. This group over here? Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay, so how many of you like 2 truths and 1 lie? And how many of you like Slack? Okay, so we are in like 2 months going to release a Localhost Slack workshop in which you learn how to build a 2 truths and a lie app for Slack. Pretty great, right? Cool. This group back here, is this 1 group or 2 groups? 2 groups. The front group, what do we got? How would you break the ice if you can't use the previous answer? Oh, if you can't use a hammer. Love it. How would you break ice? That is meta. Love it. And behind you? Love that. That's a really good one. We use that one in the office a lot. Cool. Did I get every group? Oh, God. I'm sorry. Ooh, a kitchen appliance. I would be a KitchenAid stand mixer because people make a lot of desserts in them. So I would get to like taste sweet things all the time. All right, cool. Now that we have learned icebreakers, we are going to learn something called pulse checks. So, it seems that my phone has frozen. Woo! Okay. A pulse check is a question an instructor asks. I missed a slide. All right. So, now that every group is shared, we're going to move on to the next technique. After your icebreaker, everything is warmed up and you're presenting, things are grooving, you need to maintain that momentum. You don't want to lose your participants halfway through after all the hard work that you've done to get them there. This sounds like a job for pulse checks. What's a pulse check? A pulse check is a question let me take that again. A question is, would someone like to tell me what a question is? A pulse check is a question an instructor asks or a signal they elicit from the group to get a general overview of how the group is feeling or understanding the technology and their level of engagement, knowledge, or comfort. It's something you assess as a group, not on the individual level. So, good pulse checks allow for a spectrum or range of responses. We'll learn a few like this in a minute. And they are visual in nature. You can quickly assess a large group of people if they're all showing something on their hands or holding up a piece of paper or a whiteboard. Bad pulse checks, however, are binary, like, does everyone get it? What does get it even mean? Furthermore, your audience isn't going to give you a lot of information here. Lots of them will say yes, and that's not actually true. They don't get it. And you have no idea what's going on with the ones who don't say anything at all. Bad pulse checks also require a verbal response from all participants. You can't hear 30 people talking at once. Use visual cues that you can assess quickly. And another really bad one is thumbs up if you're ready. This has the same problem as the first one. You're not getting useful information. So, I'm going to demonstrate some pulse checks. This one is called fist to 5. Use your hand to show, on a scale of 0 to 5, how comfortable you are with public speaking. Oh, we have a group in here that really likes to talk to people. Love that. Okay, so thumbs down if you got lost on the way to this room. Fair, I accept that. I know it's odd considering that I said thumbs up is usually a really bad indicator, but this actually gets you the information you're looking for. Now I know who got lost on the way to this room. And that's not necessarily a problem I can solve, like you have found the room now and next time that you come here, you know where it is. But if I say something like, thumbs down if you entered node-v in your command line and nothing came up. Now I know whose computer is not working, and I can go around and pulse, and I can go around and support. Snap if you need more time. This is a great way to judge if participants are ready to move on to the next thing. So when my countdown timer ended at the last one, I normally would say, snap if you need more time, and then it doesn't really interrupt what people are doing. So if they're still talking and they want to keep working, they'll just snap really quickly, and you can see how many groups are still working. It's a little bit more fun than raising your hand, and it gets you the information you need to know if you're ready to move on. So with that, we're going to break into groups of 5. Each person in the group is going to come up with something with which they want to gauge the group's comfort level. So at the beginning, I said, on a scale of 0 to 5, show me how comfortable you are with public speaking. You're going to take 1 silent minute to think of your question, and then you're going to ask each person in your group on a scale of 0 to 5 how comfortable they are with the topic. You're going to practice fist to 5 right now. Are there any questions? Snap if you're ready to start. See what I did there? Notice that even though I have the activity explained on the screen here, I also have it on the worksheet. I'm making sure that you understand and have proper direction before I release you to the activity. All right, I'm starting the clock. Snap if you have not yet come up with a question. Look at that, ready to go on. 5 minutes. Snap 2 times if there are people in your group who still need to go. Sounds like it's time to move on. Cool. And who would like to share an example of a time when they think that they would use this pulse check? I want to call on Elise because she's throwing me a bone, but I think that I'm going to call on you back here. Perfect. You're at a workshop on Webpack. How comfortable are you with Webpack? Love it. What else we got? Right here. Oh, yes. When you transition from one big point to another, stop and do a pulse check right then. Love that. Yes. I had a hand here. Ooh, I love that. That's very good. Love it. And Elise, tell me yours. Perfect. Workshops are not the only situation in which you would want to use pulse checks. Anytime you're teaching somebody something new, perfect opportunity. Love that. Cool. So pulse checks are one type of way to check on your audience. However, you don't just want to gauge their overall sentiment and engagement, like how they're feeling about the material is not the only thing that matters. How well they understand the material is also critical. So this is where effective questioning comes in. Let me tell you. I was a teacher for nearly a decade. It takes a really long time to get good at effective questioning. I'm going to teach you as much as I can in the next 15 minutes, but it is a lifelong process to get good at this, and I hope that you all will like practice it and try to incorporate it into what you're doing. So, why is questioning important? Participants learn more engaging with a question than they do from anything you could say to them directly. Checking for understanding means giving participants the opportunity to engage with you and figure out if they're following the material or not. You're rarely going to get 100%, but you definitely want 80% of the participants of the workshop answering questions confidently. Let's cover a few questioning techniques. The first one is turn sentences into questions. Instead of telling the audience something, phrase it as a question. For just about every single slide in a presentation, especially the Localhost presentations that we provide to you, you can do this. So here's an example. For our upcoming Blockchain Basics, an introduction to Quorum created by JP Morgan, this is one slide pulled from that. And so this one's going to come out in a couple of weeks. Hit me up if you want to learn about it. This slide asks the question at the top, what is Ethereum? And then it gives away the answer before the participants have a chance to think about it. They're just passively receiving this information. Let me demonstrate a better way. Cut out the answer. Start with the blank slide like this. What is Ethereum? Now the slide only has the question, and you can say, does anyone in the audience have experience with Ethereum? Would anyone like to try explaining Ethereum? Let participants discuss, call on some people, engage with what they say. And then this is the critical part, add in the definition. Then, does it match? So if somebody said, Ethereum is a type of Bitcoin, is that true? But it's an interesting response. It can kind of engage the audience. Somebody might say like, well, Ether is a type of cryptocurrency. But you want to make sure that the point that you're trying to get across, what is Ethereum, comes up on the slide directly before you move on. And then you can add in relevant subpoints. It's actually super easy to do this to an existing presentation. You can just like add transitions and animations to the existing text so that it doesn't appear until you've had the opportunity to ask your participants some questions. There are multiple ways of allowing, oh, yes. That's going to happen. And so you want to be really gentle. You want to be like, that's interesting. I haven't heard that before. I don't think that that's correct. I think that the definition is. Or if everyone gets it wrong, that's unlikely. Somebody will probably have an idea. And you can gently prod. Like you can be like, I don't think Ethereum is a Bitcoin. Does anyone have any other ideas? You want to play a little dumb if they're not getting it, so that you make them feel comfortable, like, also getting it wrong, and then, like, taking chances. Love that question. Feel free to interrupt me with questions at any time, by the way. So, there are multiple ways of allowing participants to answer questions. The traditional, I ask a question and you raise your hand method isn't the only way. Let's discuss one. Turn and talks. A turn and talk is when you pose a question to the group, give them 1 minute to think, and then 2 minutes to turn to someone around them and discuss their answers. Somebody also told me this is called a think, pair, share. I like turn and talk better because I'm really into alliteration. All right, so let's try it. What's the best lesson or workshop you've ever attended, and what made it great? We're gonna take 1 silent minute to think. I didn't put timers in here. And then 2 minutes to discuss with someone around you. All right, I don't want to rush you, and this would be a great time for me to be like, snap if you need more time. But unfortunately, I tried to teach you way too much in this little workshop. So we're going to move on to the next step, which is discuss. This is another important part of the turn and talk, bringing it back together. So normally what you would do is be like, who would like to share what they learned? But what I'm actually going to ask you instead is, what are the advantages of a turn and talk instead of taking individual answers from the group? Does anyone have any insight here? What up, Sean? Oh, that's my favorite. Teachers always say that. I love that. Did everybody hear Sean's answer? Okay, cool. Any others? Yes, in the back. Oh my God, I love that. It takes the stress off. Yes. What else? Yes. Super true, super true. What else? Yes. That's exactly it. So we've hit the 3 keys, right? So everybody gets to think about it and say something before you hear the right answer from the group, so everybody engages instead of just like one person says it and everybody else hears it. It's good for people who might be shy or uncomfortable, and it allows you to have like diverse thoughts about it. So this is super exciting. All right, now let's talk about our third technique. The formal teacher way of saying this is formative assessment questioning, but basically it's just asking open-ended questions. So let's look at some examples. Questions you can ask are, why do you think we just did that? What purpose does that code serve? What part of the application does this influence? What is the expected behavior of this code? Open-ended questions facilitate high-quality discussions in which workshop participants learn just as much from each other as from you. These can also be more specific and tailored to the slide or information at hand. So here's a great example. Yes, Sean. I can. I can try. Yeah, of course. Did you get a worksheet? I think there's one like right and like around you. I left a couple extras over there. Cool. Amazing. Great. All right, so this is a slide from a workshop that our very own Sean Victory actually presented recently, Bug-Free Coding with Spark Ada. And so this is a slide in where you get into the workshop and you're learning about a stack. How many CS students do we have in here? Oh God, who has taken data structures already? So we all know what a stack is, right, for the most part. Cool, so there's this slide, right? It says a stack is like a pile of dishes. And you can passively read this to the group, or you can have like one person read number 1, one person read number 2. But again, everybody has just like read this information. And then when you go to your homework and you're trying to like explain what a stack is, or figure out when you would use a stack, or how do you implement a stack, all you have done is read a list of bullets about it. You haven't actually engaged with it. So as the instructor, you want to ask good questions. So some questions you might ask here are like, can you think of any examples of when you would want to use a stack? How does a stack differ from other data structures you know? When would you not want to use a stack? As long as the questions are not like binary yes or no and they facilitate discussion, they're going to get your audience thinking. And you don't always have to have them think, pair, share, turn and talk. You don't always have to have them answer to you. You can pose the questions just because it re-engages them. They're like, oh, when would I want to use a stack? How is this different from a data structure? Yes, Sean. Oh my God, you can and should. What other questions? Love that. All right, cool. So, if you have your laptop with you, or you can do this in groups, visit mlhlocal.host/Hackcon workshop. It'll pull up a presentation. Make a copy of that presentation in your own Google Drive, or download it and open it on your computer. And in the presenter's notes, add some questions to engage your audience. We have technically 5 minutes for this activity. It's not enough, but it's enough for you to actually do the activity. Like to try it instead of just reading about it. All right. So, cool. So, generally, like, the next thing would be for us to go over the questions that you added. Unfortunately, we're coming up on 1 o'clock here, and I do want you all to get to have lunch. So, I hope that you will I hope that the next time that you give a technical workshop, you get more than 3 hours of sleep the night before. That is what I hope for you. So, let's summarize what we've learned. Open your workshop with an effective icebreaker, use pulse checks to keep your audience engaged, and ask high-quality questions to deepen learning. Before we move on to the question period, I want to do something really meta and tell you all the things that I did in this workshop that I didn't teach you in this workshop that are teacher tricks that you can use. So, at the end, summarize. Workshops should go back and forth. I was never talking for more than 5 to 7 minutes at a time before you had the opportunity to talk to the people around you, engage, write something down. This is the extent of the human attention span. I got you for 7 minutes before you're bored to tears, which makes me very nervous for my talk that's coming up this afternoon. Come to my talk. I'm going to talk more about learning. And then also, I kept engaging you all and asking you questions. And I timed myself. Oh, that's the one I forgot. Timers are critical for keeping it moving. Are there any questions? Yes?
Does this work for like workshops of like all like times from like, I don't know, like 3-hour workshops to like 30-minute workshops?
Everything. You want to like plan out how long. So if it's a 3-hour workshop, you can talk a little bit longer, like you can do like 10 minutes. But yeah, works for anything. Yes? Oh, that's a wonderful question. Thank you for the nice compliment. Nemo wants to know how I keep up the energy level. So I do have to, like, part of it's just my personality. Like, I was a cheerleader in high school. I was a teacher for a long time. Like, this is just who I am. Pat and Elise, can you confirm? This is just me. So another thing is it's easier when you're excited about the material. So I'm like really excited to teach you all how to be teachers because I pour my heart and soul into getting these workshops created, and I would be devastated if you went out and delivered them and didn't feel empowered to do that. So I'm like, ooh, yes, quality control. Like these people are gonna be out here giving great workshops, and it's like, oh, I made that happen, yes. And then another thing is to keep it moving. If you see the audience slumping, move on. If you see that the conversation has gotten off track, move on. Walk around and hydrate. Other questions? Sean.
On that note, let's say you did have a longer workshop. How would you recommend like regrouping from a break? Like let's say you did like a quick 5-minute nap break for everybody. How would you get everybody focused back into okay, we're learning?
Excellent question. Couple of ways to get the audience's attention. You've seen everybody doing like clap once if you can hear me, clap twice if you can hear me. Another good one that I like that I tried to do yesterday in the cafeteria and it didn't go as well is you get a couple of people together and you're like, okay, help me. And then everybody shushes as loud as they can. So you go, shh, and it'll catch on, and then everybody will be doing that, and then you'll have their attention. Other way, there are like lots of attention grabbers you can do. You can ring a bell. Once you have their attention back, recap. Be like, oh, okay, so before the bathroom break, the last thing that we did was, or even better, who can remind me the last thing we did before we took a bathroom break? Whenever you can pose it to the audience, let them answer it. Also, be strict about your bathroom breaks. Like if you give 5 minutes, at 4 minutes, be like, we have 1 minute remaining. And then when it's time to sit down, be like, all right, let's do this thing. But be assertive about it. Like, don't be like, are you guys ready? Because once the audience gets talking to each other, I mean, like, let's face it, chatting with each other is more interesting than me, right? Like, you'd much rather be chatting with each other than listening to me right now, I think. But, so that's it. Other questions? Yeah. Oh, wait, you've had 2? I'm sorry, I gotta be fair. That's another teacher thing. Yes. Ooh, so slumping. So like, if you see them doing something else, if you see people, so people are always gonna check their phones. But if you see them like actively engaged with their phone, or if you see them like turned around, not paying attention to you, having a side conversation, you can kind of see like if people are frustrated, you can see if, the conversation is like off topic, if people are checked out, if they're not asking questions, those are some good signs. Yes? Not a question. Yes?
How do you address people of like different skill levels, like vastly different skill levels? Because like if you teach like too hard of a topic, then like the people of lesser skill might get like bored.
How do you address like different skill levels? Awesome question. So, hopefully when you advertise your workshop, you advertise the skill level that you're expecting so that people will self-select. That's the first one. The second one is when you're giving the workshop, do the pulse check at the beginning. How comfortable are you with this? Then the next one is if you've got people who are speeding ahead and you've got people who are behind, pair people of different skill levels so they can help each other out. What else? Is it a transition time? Okay, I am gonna stay and be available for questions, but I wanna release you all to lunch. But host a Localhost workshop. Let's learn by hacking. Woo!